Welcome back to The Abyss, where we discuss a variety of interesting topics. Today we're discussing culture shock in different countries. So,
How many attempts was that?
I'm not
Was
even
that like
sure.
your third or fourth attempt to say the
Third,
intro?
third. You think I should do it again?
No, you're fine. You're fine. Keep going. Keep going.
Alright, cool. So, what do you think about this topic?
Okay, so yeah, we talking about culture shock, going out of country to different countries. I mean, for those of you who checked out the first episode of The Abyss, we mentioned the Amazing Race TV show, which involved traveling to other countries, and I myself am an enthusiast for going to different countries out of country, and we currently reside in the USA, so we definitely definitely have a interesting culture here. So whenever it goes outside of our country, we experience things very unfamiliar to us. So we're talking about that.
Yeah, for me, when it comes to this whole topic of culture shock and with people going to different countries, I feel like just some of the customs and certain things that other countries do or like when it comes to, you can say things like food or, hey, and when I say food, I really mean British people with that beans on
Straight
toast.
up.
I'm not, hey, I don't know what that is. I really don't know what that is. Hey,
I've been to the UK twice, and there's some interesting stuff food related there. I mean, they
yeah,
definitely have different vocabulary when it comes to cuisine. I'm not saying it's
yeah,
very crazy, but like for example, we call it French fries here in the US, and then
yeah.
over there they call it chips. Same thing as Australia.
Oh yeah, yeah. Really, when I think about like different culture shock type things, uh, especially when it comes to the food, because I like cooking a lot, so uh just learning what different foods are called and the terminology that they use versus how we say it, just like you said, how some places call fries chips. um it's definitely something to get used to.
First thing we talk about culture shock is food. All right, this is gonna
Of
be a long.
course, of course. Hey, where else would we start?
There was like, I mean, yeah, over like, I guess since we started talking about the UK, I think we should talk about the UK first for like different culture shocks. Um, I've been there twice. It's definitely, if you plan on going outside of the US, those of you who are looking at traveling outside the US, I think a good place to start is the UK. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the biggest reason as they also speak English over there
Oh yeah.
with
Yeah.
but they make it a little spicy over there, replacing words in the English language that we would say that would have a totally different meaning. See, this is why English is weird, people. See, like I said, for example, like chips is what British people say, and then French fries is what we say over here. Then other
Yeah.
things in the UK, there's like, for example, vacation is what we say in the US, and then over in the UK, they call it holiday.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to go into a new country and just if they also speak English, they still have like sort of a different subdivision of English over there. They usually replace words and do say other things according to the point of view as a USA tourist visiting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
UK is a good place to start.
yeah. I think that it's cool hearing how different uh really English speaking countries, because I don't speak any other languages. Uh I think it's cool how they talk and like just seeing the difference between the way we talk versus them, because
Yeah.
really just because you start to see like a lot of differences when you didn't really think much was different, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. Like,
Um,
it doesn't feel different when you first go to, like, an English-speaking nation, for example, like UK, and then also there's Canada, been there twice too.
yeah,
Um, since they all speak English, I'm like, "Okay, we speak English here, we cool." But then you start looking around, oh, well, it's still also kind of a different language because they use different English words to describe different things in mainly the UK and Canada. There are other places like the Commonwealth countries. Um, and if you don't know what the Commonwealth is, I mean, a good idea to understand if a country is part of the Commonwealth is if you see the Union Jack in their flag. And basically, the Union Jack is the United Kingdom flag.
yeah.
Um, I don't. I think there's a good number of countries in the Commonwealth. Like I remember seeing the Queen's funeral, and they had a area where the casket was taken around, and it was all had flagpoles and all the flags of countries that are part of the Commonwealth. There's quite a bit.
I'm pretty sure it's like 52 or 53, something like that. Might be
There's
a
a
little
lot.
bit more. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Hey, how
but
many
yeah,
countries have you been to?
that's a lot. Okay, that's a good question. Well, okay. I don't want to feel like I'm bragging or anything, but I mean, we can definitely talk about what it's like to go to all these different countries. Yeah, so I said Canada, uh,
Yeah,
Great Britain, or United Kingdom, whatever we call it. More specifically, England, because in the UK there's technically like two countries in there. There's actually three. There's three countries, being England, Scotland, and Wales, and then if you want to count East Ireland, then that's another country. So mainly three in the form of Wales, Scotland, and England. I've mainly only been to England. I've also been to France, Spain, Portugal, and then up in the northern Nordic areas, you got Norway, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Denmark. Also visited Russia. But that was before the whole Ukraine Russia issues right now. This was
yeah.
before all that. And then I've also been over to the Middle East once. Went to Israel. You got a lot of things to say about Israel. And then other places over back in the West Hemisphere, we've been to Mexico, all around the Caribbean, like Jamaica, and all these other island territories like the British Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands. There's also Bahamas. I think I got all of them.
All right.
Oh, and also I've been to Gibraltar, which is a territory just south of Spain, north of Morocco, which is northern Africa. In case you guys don't know where that is, um, I think that's roughly everywhere I've been to.
All
I'd s-
right.
I would s- I'd say I've been to many places before for like average tourists.
All right. Yeah, that's a good amount of places, you know.
I know, dude.
I don't I don't even think you've told me all of that. Uh, uh, for me, I've only that I know of, I've only been to the Bahamas and Mexico.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think Mexico's not that bad of a place. I mean, it all depends when you go to a different country. It all just depends where you go in that country.
Yeah.
It's like um, Mexico, there can be some dangerous places in Mexico, but
Yeah.
where I've been was mainly off of like east and west coast Mexico. Um, like for example, we've been over to Cozumel and Mazatlan.
Yeah.
Like those aren't the biggest cities, but they're off. But like I said, I've mainly been to the coast areas. I haven't been to Cancun. Um, but yeah, mainly the smaller coastal cities. and they're not too bad.
Yeah. Hey, when it comes to the culture shock aspect of like Mexico and all of that, it feels like people coming from like who go there from America, they go there expecting things like parties and uh well yeah, mainly like parties and just a bunch of beautiful land, which yeah, you can get both of those in
You can get both.
Mexico. Yeah. Yeah, and Mexico is a beautiful place. But if you don't stay in certain places that you're meant to be and you're going to places that, let's say, even some of the citizens don't go to, that's where I feel like a lot of the trouble comes in, you know?
Yeah. And then again, it's like people when traveling out of country, they get all these impressions of the place they're going to and just immediately think stereotypes and other
Yeah,
historical events that are affecting things over there. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good to do your research on those things and what to expect when you go over there. But once you get there physically, everything you've researched kind of just like you're basically put to the test once you step out of the plane or cruise or car, where however method you
yeah,
get to those countries, you're basically all right, now you're here. How much of your research is actually accurate?
yeah. And then also of that research, what are you gonna follow?
Exactly. So again, just typical tourist information whenever you're going out of country. Um, it's always handy to know that, like, okay, you understand there's always certain crime and like there's dangers of going to anywhere. So like
Yeah,
always, empty pockets, uh, avoid pickpocketing, just make sure you keep your stuff on you. That's just typical tourist like guidelines as to when you're going to somewhere else. It's very there's a lot of things to know when you're going out of country. I mean, I'm very much familiar of what they are.
yeah,
Um, but then again, it also like depends on what you're doing there. So like if you're going to Mexico for like a business trip, then that's different than going there for tourism.
oh yeah,
Your it
yeah,
also depends on the purpose. That's what I'm trying to say. The purpose of going to a place can determine on how you need to um, keep yourself accounted and safe in the country. I'm not trying to say that everywhere you go is dangerous. Just always, if you're looking at traveling out of country, to those who are listening, just be aware that just make sure you're always aware of your surroundings and know what's going on in the area. Just make sure you're educated a bit, but don't let that kind of research overtake your experience,
yeah,
because I want to go into a point right here where when going out of country, regardless of how bad things can be, the people there could be like amazing.
yeah. Hey, what do you think about the different culture shock or like yeah, like culture shock in America with American people
Well,
going to different states?
I think here in America, in the USA, I mean, culture shock varies because the USA is such a diverse country. There's areas
Yeah,
of all ethnicities and backgrounds of life here in the USA. I wouldn't say there's a specific culture here in the
ye
USA because it's such a mix between multiple cultures.
yeah. Well, what I'm getting at more is like, say you go to a different state and you're used to a bunch of people saying hi and
Okay.
things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that gets a lot of people when they go from state to state is just the surroundings and how people act. The
Yeah.
way just the way of life. Like say you go somewhere like New York and In certain areas, they're not
Oh yeah.
driving as much, you know?
That is definitely true. I'm pretty sure there are many Americans out there who haven't even left the state that they were raised in, that they've
Oh,
never
yeah.
been out of state. Um, I will say the intensity of culture shock is
Yeah.
different when comparing to going to different states and countries. When you go to different states, of course, like you're in the same country, but there is a little bit of things that change. So, like, let's say you go from like Los Angeles, like California, urban,
Yeah.
like that atmosphere, and then you drive or fly or however method, you go from California all the way over to Texas. I'm pretty sure you're going to experience some culture shock because how states do things, how like way of life in different states are different. Um, and yeah, just certain areas like weather are just more general things to take note of. Like California is hot, Texas can be hotter, but there
Oh,
are
yeah.
areas of Texas that do get pretty cold. And I think last year around this time it got snow. I don't know. If you're from Texas, let us know if it snows in your
Yeah.
state. I've only been to Galveston.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it does snow occasionally in Texas. I don't think it's super often, though.
Yeah. I mean, I've also been to Dallas, but only in the form of like 2 hour long layover in the airport. So I don't know if that is enough to say that I've actually been to Dallas.
Yeah. For me, I think what makes some people look at different states a certain ways from watching different shows
Yeah.
because like shows take places in pretty much whatever state or uh country that they wanted to take place in.
Yeah.
And you know if you watch a show or something like that, it's always gonna be the same types of things. It's never hitting certain points or uh certain things that the people who actually live there are going through, you know?
Yeah. Like I that's why I don't necessarily entirely rely on media,
Yeah,
because people can say whatever they want about a certain country. This applies a lot to it when I went to Israel. We can get into that later. But
yeah,
generally, you can hear things on the media, YouTube, other things about a certain country, and if you go there, it's much different than what they would say. Like I said, this is very much accurate from my recent experience with Israel. We'll get into that later. But yeah, culture shock is it hits you like a truck if you've never been outside the country. And also it varies depending on where you go.
yeah, yeah. I remember I used to think that somewhere like Hawaii, even though that's not a different country, uh, I used to think their lifestyle was a certain way because I would watch TV shows, whether it was fiction or a reality show, and they would be in Hawaii or go there for like a vacation. And people
Yeah.
were just chilling on the beach and all that all day, going to school on the beach or like with a beach type of view and things like that. And even though I haven't been there, um, like just seeing and hearing from other people's experiences, uh, that was something that I looked at. I was like, oh, okay. Like that was something where I was like, okay, you can't really take the media's word for certain things, you know?
Yeah. Um like like I'm gonna build off of Hawaii. Um Again, like the USA is so diverse. Every different state is like its own country in a sense because they
Yeah,
have their different cultures there. Hawaii, like straight up. feels like I think one of the few I think Hawaii is one of the few states in the USA that feels like you're in a different country.
Yeah.
Like the Hawaii just feels so different. I've never been there. I've had family members that've been there, seen pictures, told me their experiences, and based off what they told me, it's like going to another country. And then another place I think could also be considered another country, depending on how you look with how shocking the culture shock is. I know,
Yeah.
cringe. How I said it probably was cringe, but um, I would say Alaska.
Hmm.
Been there
I don't know too
twice.
much about that. Yeah.
Alaska is, um, I would say, an empty state. I mean,
Yeah.
they're like all the most of the city. I would probably say majority of the cities in Alaska are located um on like the southernmost strip area of Alaska that like is right above Seattle. So you know how there's Seattle and then if you go up there's Vancouver and then you go up a little bit farther you're now in Alaska.
Yeah.
That southernmost area above Vancouver, that's really where all the Alaska cities are. Except for Anchorage. Anchorage is farther up north, but if we're looking at the general landmass of Alaska, most of, if not all of the cities are in the southern area of Alaska. Which makes
Yeah.
sense because if you go to like central or northern Alaska, you're in some very cold territory. Not to say that Alaska is already freezing cold around this time of year, going until
Yeah.
like late spring, because it gets freezing. But I would probably say with different country wise, it's with the nature and the natural geography of Alaska is what makes it feel like a different country because
Eh,
you don't get that kind of stuff down in the USA. You know, I mean, the only time you'll get like really cool mountain ranges and like forests is mainly up where the northern states are bordering Canada, like Montana, North South Dakota, um, Washington, Wisconsin, all like those northern states get close to like what Alaska has to offer, but Alaska just takes it to another level.
yeah.
Um,
Hey, I just searched the population for Alaska, and it
oh,
says,
it's small.
yeah, as of some point in 2021, it's 732,673 people.
It's funny because the largest state in the USA has one of the smallest populations.
Oh yeah.
I find that funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alaska. Now we're in the USA. Let's start going out of country.
Yeah.
Like how we mentioned at the beginning of the episode. Yeah, culture shock is much more intense in
Yeah.
different countries.
I
I
think
would
for a
say,
lot of people, what they don't do is look at the laws. And that's
yeah,
where certain people end up getting in trouble is they expect everything to be in their comfort zone and what America is, you know?
oh yeah, that I think that's the biggest mistake new tourists make. Um, Here, I'm gonna give a
Yeah.
little word of advice for those who are listening who have the um, desire or are currently planning or scheduled to go out of country to visit somewhere else. Make sure you read up on the laws
Yeah.
because you don't want to go around a new country and then break a rule and you have no clue about it.
Yeah.
um, Again, another story in Israel. Like I have so many stories from Israel. It's hilarious. But it's not just Israel, like all other areas of like Europe. Um, really good. So yeah, Europe, since we already talked about the UK. Oh, one more thing. Um, if you're for those of you who are in the US who are looking to travel out of country, I would probably say the best places to start off with, like I said, the UK. If you want to go over into like Europe or across the Atlantic Ocean, I would probably do the UK as a good place to start, but also Canada, Mexico, and the Caribbean area. Those four areas I would highly recommend to start off with for traveling. I would wait to go into other um, European areas like France, Sweden, Finland, Russia, and even depending on where you go, like the Middle East, Israel, UAE, um, all those places. I'd probably save those later, but the good starting points are those four countries I mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said you've been to Canada twice?
Yes, I've only been to Vancouver both times.
All
I
right.
want to go to places like Quebec City and Montreal, and then Winnipeg is also kind of tugging at my strings of wanting to go
Yeah.
there. But mainly, I want to also go visit like the French area of
Yeah.
Canada.
So there's a lot of people that said or that have said that Canada isn't much different than America. What do you think about that?
Um, Depends on what kind of parts of America they're talking about. I mean, yes, it honestly like Canada doesn't feel too different from the USA. I mean, they have different laws, different government, different ways of life up there. Um, but overall, the experience of when I went to Vancouver, it didn't feel too different. I mean, I had to get used to spending Canadian dollars other than USA dollars. And
Yeah.
also, what's weird is that Canada, you can find similarities in ways of life in Canada and the USA. Um, but there are so many small details in Canadian life that I find funny that we don't have here in the
Like what?
USA. So, okay, just one of the smallest things in Canada. So, you know how we have milk in
Yeah.
the USA, we put it in cartons, right?
Yeah.
Well, Canada puts milk in bags.
That should be illegal. That
Like, I'm serious. Like, I was
that's
in the
not right.
grocery store. I was like, when I was up in Vancouver, I was just in the grocery store. I was like, okay, I want to get some milk for just like breakfast in the hotel. I go, and it took me so long to find some milk in the store. And then I asked the uh employee there. I say, "Hey, where's your milk?" And so they directed me over to the milk and they pointed at the milk. And what was going through my head was just like, wait, that's milk? And come to find out, the milk was in bags.
Oh, I just searched it.
Did, uh,
Oh
uh,
no.
yeah. But that's like one of
What?
multiple things that are kind of like fun to talk
Yo.
about with culture shock. But yeah, Canadians, funny enough, according to USA residents, milk goes in bags in Canada. So yeah, if you go to Canada
When
and you've never been there before, um, note to self: if you want to get milk, it's in bags.
when you said it was in bags, I thought you meant like not actual bags, but like those things that they have like at places like Popeyes where they give the sweet tea in those gallons.
Oh no, they put
No,
like
they
these
just put them in
plastic
bags.
like these plastic sacks. It's
Yo,
fun. Like it was hilarious to me just to find out they put milk in bags. And
uh,
another thing I don't think people will realize. Canada also just this is me when I went to Canada, is that I'm sitting in the hotel and then on TV, you know how in the USA they're like number one in America product, and then number one in America this, and then best in America. Yeah, replace America with Canada, and that's what commercials are in over there when I was in my hotel.
alright.
It
Hey,
just feels so weird because we're so used to hearing talk about America here in America. But when you go
Yeah.
somewhere else, oh, Canada.
Yo, I've always wanted to find a way to just start watching Canadian shows, but I don't want to use a VPN because I know like Netflix and stuff, if they somehow find out that you're using a VPN, they'll block
Yeah.
your stuff or like ban your account or whatever. And I've I don't know, from the shows that I've seen that have come from Canada and even places like Australia, uh yo, they be making some of the best shows. Like, have you ever watched My Babysitter's a Vampire?
No. If it's a
Yeah,
Canadian show, I probably haven't seen it because I wasn't watching any Canadian TV when I was over in Vancouver. Because
it was
I was always out and about in Vancouver doing all
yeah.
these different activities.
Yeah, so that was a Canadian show that ended up coming out on Disney in America.
Disney.
And yeah, bro, it was honestly a great show. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like that was possibly one of the best shows in that genre for made for
Okay.
kids.
Okay.
And
You also
like
notice how Canadians are also like too nice.
yeah, sometimes.
I did
Sometimes.
not run into I did not run into a single person in Vancouver that wasn't rude.
That wasn't rude.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think I ran into a single Canadian in Vancouver that wasn't rude.
I
Like,
feel like you're saying that wrong. I feel like
no, I'm saying it right.
do you mean that was rude or wasn't?
When I was in Vancouver, I did not run into a single Canadian. Hold on. I okay, now we're talking like how I don't think I don't think I ran into a single Canadian that was rude. There, I said
All
it
right.
right.
All
Sorry,
right.
I realized. Should I edit the past like 2 minutes, or should I just
Nah, let's
treat
keep
it
that
like a
in.
meme and say Jay just has a hard time with grammar?
Hey, let's keep that in. Let's keep that in, bro.
Ladies and gentlemen,
We make
this is
mistakes.
this is what we do in the USA. Kind of stupid.
Yo. Hey.
The stereotype of Americans being stupid is kind of correct. It's not entirely correct. There's a lot of smart people over here, but
Yeah.
I did not represent.
Hey, we representing a whole country right now. We
I,
can't mess this up. Oh no.
yeah, we representing good. We hardly know how to use grammar.
Hey, sometimes the grammar just doesn't gram, bro.
Hey,
You know?
hey, we human over here.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, that's Canada. I mean, that's just a bit of my experience in Canada. Mexico, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I think the biggest culture shock anyone could experience into a different country is the language barrier.
Yeah.
Is when I went to Mexico, uh, language was a thing. Now, where we went, people did know how to speak English, but holy
Yeah.
crap, like I was taking and this was me taking a Spanish course in high school. This was during that time I was learning Spanish in high school. And I'm like, "Oh, I could put this to good use. If someone speaks Spanish to me, I could probably know what they're saying." Nah. That didn't
Yeah.
none no. None of it
Yeah.
worked. And like knowing me,
Classes in high school when it comes to different languages, they prepare you for certain questions, but never the whole language.
no. Yeah, they just get you ready for small talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like knowing me, you know me, I'm not one to talk to strangers that easily.
Yeah.
So like, why would I even go up to a random person or talk to a random person coming up to me speaking in a language I don't understand and then expect to not be awkward.
Hey, the person comes up to you, starts speaking in Spanish, you start speaking in English, police come over, arrest you.
Oh my god.
Hey, I feel like that would be one of my biggest fears going to another country is if somebody's trying to, like, warn me about something and I just don't know what they're saying.
Seriously. Like someone could come up to you, say in a different language, your life is in danger. Come with me if you want to live. And you just have no idea what they're saying.
Just
Or like,
smile and nod.
I don't know what you're saying. I'm just gonna walk away. And then dead. Yeah,
Eh,
so that's really how it feels like just out of country in North America. But you know what's really like with language barriers? How like I definitely had a hard experience in Denmark.
why would you say
Denmark.
that?
Okay, so took a flight from Vegas all the way over. So I went into Vegas and then I hopped on a flight after a layover, flew all the way over to Copenhagen, Denmark. I think
Yeah,
Copenhagen is the capital of Denmark. Yeah, Denmark. We get there. We stayed there for a few days before we hopped on a cruise ship. We were sailing through the Baltic Sea, where that's basically Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. Um, but yeah, Denmark. We spent like a first few days there. From the first minute you step off that plane, it feels so weird because the signs everywhere are in Dutch.
yeah,
I believe Dutch. I believe Dutch is their official language. Yes. So you get off the plane. Now, understand this when you go to different countries and you enter their international airport, you will see English, but those will be like small subtitles or on a different side of the sign. But you will see different languages on the signs everywhere in the airport. And we're
yeah,
like, how do we get to immigration? How do we get to baggage claim? Like we're just looking around, piecing together the puzzle that oh, this Dutch word means baggage claim. I mean,
yeah,
it took like me and my family we were in Denmark. It took us a bit of time to figure out, oh, this is where it is. But luckily, we were able to see signs that had English on it that directed us to where we
yeah.
needed to go.
Hey, I just looked it up. The language in Denmark is Danish.
Oh, it's Danish. Okay,
Yeah,
Dutch is used somewhere else. Then
yeah.
I get Danish and Dutch mixed up sometimes.
Let's see. Let's see where that's
As
from.
an English speaker, they just sound the same to me.
That's German.
Dutch is
Yeah,
German. Okay.
apparently.
Okay.
Official.
Well, Denmark is Denmark borders Germany by at the north.
Yeah, yeah. So this
So I mean,
list that I'm looking
I could
at,
understand some Dutch. I could understand there being some Dutch speaking in Denmark since it's bordering Germany.
yeah. So it says Germany, Austria, Belgium, parts of Italy. I don't know
Uh,
how to say these two. Poland and Switzerland.
those countries are pretty close, if not bordering Germany. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
Switzerland borders Germany, and then Switzerland is also connected to Italy,
yeah,
and then Poland is also next to Germany.
yeah, yeah. So
So
that
yeah,
makes sense.
biggest thing, language barrier is the biggest thing that will hit you with culture shock. Another thing that will hit you crazy when traveling out of country to across the Atlantic, like Europe and the Middle East, and the Eastern Hemisphere, like everywhere else that isn't North and South America, the thing that will hit you hard is jet lag.
Yeah,
Jet lag will hit you like a truck when you go across the pond.
yeah. Hey, you know it's gonna be bad when jet lag just going between states is really bad.
Well, just okay, states isn't that bad.
Yeah. Well, I'm
I
thinking
mean,
about like
the
going
only
like
like
completely
how
across
you
the country, you know?
well, yeah, if like we're talking like LA all the way over to New York, yeah, you will get
Yeah.
hit by jet lag. But compared to if you go to LA all the way over to England
Oh yeah.
or anywhere in Europe or just that area of the world, um, there is such a big difference with jet lag whether you travel across the USA from the USA all the way over to England. So it's well, not just England, like anywhere outside of North and South America. And I remember the biggest jet lags that hit me was when I went to England for the first time because I had no clue what jet lag was. I get off the plane and all of a sudden it's just middle of the day and I couldn't even stand. So tired
Yeah.
because where it's day in one side of the world, it's night in the other side of the world. So by the time we got to England that one time, it was like afternoon when we showed up, and it was like midnight, possibly past that, over back at home in the USA.
Jet
So it'll
lag
take. I will
just
definitely
isn't
say it
so
takes a few days to get used to it.
yeah. Like jet lag in general just doesn't feel good,
Really, what
because
it feels like, if you want to know what jet lag feels like, basically, you get tired before you should go to bed.
yeah.
That's real. That's really what jet lag is. And and here's the thing: you can't stop yourself from falling asleep. It just hits you. Like if you're able to get off a 12 to 14-hour flight across the world and not feel tired, props to you because at some point you will fall asleep one way or another without being in a bed or in a hotel.
Yeah.
And then another big jet lag thing that I felt is in Israel because when we flew to England, it was from West Coast USA over to England. But when we flew to Israel, it was West Coast USA all the way over to Israel. So we flew along a much farther distance than to England. It was, oh my gosh, it was crazy. But now, since we going over to Israel, uh, let's talk about that.
All right. Hey, I've never been to Israel. Yo, I feel like I should have gone at some point, but I don't.
Israel is, I think, I think I felt the biggest culture shock in Israel
Yeah.
because I believe it's over in the third world country areas. Is Israel third world or
I don't
is
think
Israel a
that
third world
counts.
country? I don't think it
I don't
counts.
know.
I know places like China, Japan, Korea, and like India. Those are definitely third world countries. I don't know if Israel's third world,
Yeah.
but what I'm trying to say is Israel probably hit me the hardest with culture shock. Like there's so like the rules over there. If you think the rules are strict in like European countries or places in the West Hemisphere, clearly you've never been to the Middle East. The rules over there are strict.
Yeah. And
Um,
it really varies based on where you're at.
well, Israel is a small country.
Yeah.
Um, I'll also say the smaller the country you're in, the variety of what kind of culture shock you'll get throughout the country is much smaller because the country isn't as big as like compared to the USA. Like Israel is tiny compared to the USA.
Yeah.
Tiny. And but I'm gonna go into some examples of culture shock over there. So Israel's currently split into like three different religions. Um, currently, like Christianity, uh, Judaism, and Islam.
Yeah.
And specifically at their capital, Jerusalem, they split the city into three spots. There's a Christian area, there's a Jewish area, and there's an Islam area. Uh, we I went into all three, um, and you can definitely tell which area you're in the city. Because like if you're in the Christian area, you'll know you're in a Christian area. You'll see churches and other traditional Christian stuff. More specifically, the Catholic side of Christianity. And then when you're in the Jewish area, you can tell you're in the Jewish area. You'll see all like Jewish synagogues and marketplaces, other like all that stuff that for Jews. And then when you're in the Islamic area, you'll know you're in the Islamic area. It's as
Yeah.
if you're going to three different worlds in one city.
And in your opinion, what was like the biggest difference besides like religion and just certain ways that people acted?
Um, so other than the people and religion over there, just like I'm gonna go back to like the first thing we talked about is the food,
Yeah.
and then other like laws and jargon in other places. Like everyone's speaking Hebrew or Arabic over there. Um, you can still see English. Like English is still present in Israel, but it's not as present as compared to Hebrew and Arabic. Um, so like for example, we flew into Tel Aviv and then we drove up to the city of Haifa and we spent the night in a hotel over there and we had dinner over at like a cafe down the street. Israel has some great food because it's all authentic. It's made there. There's no such thing as preservatives over there. Um,
Yeah.
like frozen foods over there aren't really there. Like it's all made in Israel. Yeah, we eat over there, and Israel is more vegan than I thought.
Yeah.
There are so
Hey,
many places that have vegetable dishes, um,
yeah.
but you
Hey,
can
on the
still
topic
settle
of
for other
food,
things.
yeah, on the topic of food, um, I feel like that's what gets a lot of people when they're in a lot of different places because, like especially when you live in America because there's so many frozen foods and then so many like fried foods and
Yeah,
things like that. And then if you go to somewhere like Israel or anywhere in the surrounding areas, they're eating more fresh foods and
everything is so fresh over there. Like Europe
yeah,
and the Middle East. Oh my. I've never been to like China or Japan. Like I want to go to Japan someday in the future. Like that's a bucket list thing. But everywhere I've been that isn't North America, it's just everything is so real, so fresh. Like it's kind of a breath of fresh air. No pun
yeah,
intended. I mean, I mean that also is a real thing in England and like Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Spain, Russia. Even there's no such thing as preservatives over there. Everything is fresh. It's just so good. I would probably
yeah,
go visit there to eat some good food. Um, so yeah, if you're traveling to areas, there's gonna be some definitely new territory for you in cuisine, but it's definitely a good shot to try it. And all the places I've been to when with food, I've enjoyed everything that they've offered.
yeah. Honestly, I don't even like looking at ingredients on the food that we hear anymore just
I
because
know, right? I just
yeah,
abstain from that. Like once you read the ingredients that you have on food,
you don't want to eat
you
it
realize
anymore.
they're gonna like they put like dangerous chemicals in there too just to make it taste like fruit.
Yeah. And like how when it comes to like certain foods, if you go to other countries, like you'll see that their foods are smaller. Like
Yeah,
uh
that's another thing. The USA. supersizes food portions.
Yeah.
Like if you're a USA citizen and you travel outside the country, don't be surprised when you order like a burger somewhere. Like for example, Canada, they had a Red Robin in Vancouver, and I ordered a burger in the Red Robin in Canada, and it was much smaller than what I would than the same thing in the USA. So if you go to a country, expect much smaller portions because the USA really takes like food portions and just makes them huge.
Yeah.
Other places
Like
like Europe and Middle East, they
sometimes,
don't do that.
yeah, sometimes like it feels good to eat that amount because you know you're gonna be good, but at the same time it's just not as healthy. And then you look at
Yeah,
how other countries like even though they're not really about like fitness like that, like they're not
no,
constantly at the gym,
but they
they're
still
still
look good.
skinny. Yeah. And like that's honestly what's really dope in my opinion is that other countries know how to take care of their health.
Yeah, USA gotta change.
Hey, we gonna be the change, bro.
Yo, yeah. Again, Israel. So, like for example, very vegan country. They, like, serve salads and stuff for breakfast, but that's not the only thing they do. They also have, like, meat. They have a lot of seafood. Seafood is big over there, but they also
Yeah.
serve things like, Mediterranean food, like lamb and, falafel. Falafel is amazing. If you ever go to the Middle East, specifically Israel, I'm pretty sure other Mediterranean countries make this, but falafel, amazing dish to have in that area of the world.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a, the best way I can do it, it's like a it's the same way how people make burritos over here, but it's
Yeah.
more bready and it has like good like has this it's like a giant hush puppy in a bread wrap with like vegetables and hummus. Like that's some
So,
good stuff.
yeah, like really different countries' foods. The fact that some of them really do taste a lot better, even though they're essentially the same type of food, really is shocking.
Yeah, like Cody, if you ever go to like Europe or everything, you're gonna love the food there.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, another one more thing, a few more things I want to talk about. One of them being, like I said, in Israel, other smaller things that kind of like culture shock you. So there's a rule, referencing food again. There's a rule in Israel, which I didn't find out about this until like a few days in. Um,
Yeah.
in Israel, I don't know if other Middle East countries do this, but I know Israel does this. It is practically illegal to eat meat with dairy.
So, what's the reason for that?
So, like so if you want to, so like for example, you can't have a cheeseburger in Israel
Yeah.
because it has cheese and meat. You can, you are never allowed to eat a meat and a dairy product at the same time. And like for some reason, I believe it's religious. I don't know, but
Yeah.
according to them over there, is that if you eat meat with dairy, is that you're eating the animal and its mother's milk.
Yeah. When you start to think about stuff like that, it's kind of true in a way. Like, that's why I try not to eat a crazy amount of just a crazy amount of meat. Like I do eat meat every day, but not like I used to.
But yeah, so that's I think that's a big thing that hit me with culture shock in Israel is that they even have rules on how you should eat over there. I got one more story in Israel. Like I could go on forever about talking about Israel because there's so many things I want to mention about my trip to Israel. Another thing is that, oh shoot, what was I going to say? Did I seriously just
Yeah.
forget what I was going to say just as I was about to say it? Shoot. Oh yes, right. So in Jerusalem, uh, there's this place called the Temple Mount. And if you've ever seen pictures or footage of Jerusalem being the capital of Israel, there's this huge gold dome in the city, and that is the temple. And
All
on
right.
the Temple Mount, like there's this big open area. There's a Islamic temple on that area, and currently that's under the control of Islam. The Judaist areas, the Christian areas are still like fighting for control over the Temple Mount. But right now, Islam controls the Temple Mount. So me and my group on the tour went to the Temple Mount, and there was it's kind of fun. This is kind of funny where on the Temple Mount, just being near it, you have to follow very strict rules, specifically with what you're allowed to say, what you're allowed to wear, and like what you're allowed to take pictures of and record. Like it's a very, I would say more or less, it's a very holy place for Islam because it's the Temple Mount. Um, but funny story, when we were outside, we were going in, and the rule in Israel when you're going into temples or other places, men have to wear clothing that goes past their elbows and their knees. So no tank tops, no short sleeve shirts in Israel when it comes to this. And it don't matter if it's cold or hot outside. You got to wear stuff that covers your elbows and your knees. And that
Yeah.
applies for men, just men. Women fall under stricter rules. And since we're on Islamic territory, women have to cover more. Like they have to wear jackets at least. Like if you're touring there and you're a woman, and you're going on the Temple Mount, you have to wear more like jackets, like long dresses. I'm pretty sure some people had to wear a head covering for some God knows why reason. But basically, we were entering the Temple Mount, and our group got called over by like the authorities that were watching the Temple Mount, and they called like two people out in our group saying, "Hey, you need to cover yourself up more." Uh, both of them were guys. They had
Yeah.
shorts and short sleeve shirts on. They weren't allowed because their elbows and their knees were showing, and it was so hilarious. They either were kicked out or they had to find some way to cover their knees and elbows. So they put on jackets, but here's the best part. Some of the ladies in our group had spare skirts in their
Bro.
bags. And these two guys found out and they're like, "Can we borrow your skirts?" And next thing you know, you see this group of USA citizens walking around on the Temple Mount with these two guys wearing skirts.
Hey, they 100% said that you had to do that just because they wanted you to look stupid.
I I
That's the
I
reason.
kind of felt like that. Like they like even says like you either wear something that covers your knees or you're kicked out. Like they are strict when you
Yeah.
on the Temple Mount. I didn't get in trouble because like I said, going back to the advice, understand the laws and the rules of the place you're going to.
Yeah.
This is an example of knowing the laws of the land. So
Yeah.
yeah, Temple Mount was crazy, but like I said, one of the many stories I have in Israel, in other countries. We can talk more about that later.
All right.
Um, I think we should talk about one more thing.
All right. What were you thinking?
Remember, you mentioned how media and film and video likes to portray certain countries a certain way.
Yeah. Hey, watch any movie in Mexico and they put a yellow filter on it.
For real. Seriously, it's so funny that Hollywood thinks it's a good idea to like you're standing in like the US border, everything's fine. You take your first step into Mexico, everything looks yellow according to Hollywood. I don't know if
That
they do anything else. Like I don't like. I think they do something similar. Like if they have a movie take place in like India, they have more of like an
yeah.
orange overlay. Like
Mm,
I don't I don't understand why they do that. I don't.
yeah. For me, like, that doesn't really help the experience as much, like
No, it doesn't.
like, if you look at how they let's say it's a desert scene,
Yeah.
going back to, like, Mexico or something like that. That's how they portray it is, like, it's all desert, but then if they do a desert scene in America, normal colors, normal everything,
I
like
just I never understood why. I guess it's like they want to make you feel like you're in a different like this is in a different country, but making everything a more tinted like if you're tinting everything yellow to make someone think they're in a different country, no. Like
no.
I can go more about this in like another episode if we talk about film and everything,
Yeah,
but I don't understand why they do that. In fact, I could say I'm probably more of against that trend.
me too, because there's so many things that they could do with the scene to show like, just to get their point across of, like, "Oh, it's hot," or whatever,
Yeah, like you can do so
versus
many things to make like a
yeah,
scene look hot without tinting it.
yeah, and, hey, what what's even more messed up is that they always have, like, certain types of music, and then
Exactly. You
yeah,
know, you those of you've been on Instagram or TikTok or like social media, you guys see those videos where also just movies in general. You see your characters entering a different country that then cues the stereotypical music.
yo, someone needs to make a
We can
parody
hear
of
this the
that.
most when it comes to like Latin America, like Mexico and down till they get to like basically Mexico to Costa Rica area. You enter those countries, you hear the stereotypical music the most. Other places you got places like China, Korea, and Japan. You enter those countries, guess what? Cue the Chinese music or Japan or Korean music.
Yeah,
People like to portray countries through their stereotypes,
yeah. I
and
wonder
that is a territory that can either be healthy or harmful.
yeah, I wonder if other countries look at America and just think about, like, hip hop and rock music.
It's just imagine like we're like watching a French film because French film is also quite big over in Europe. They have a
Yeah.
character enter the USA. Next thing you hear is like party in the USA, and like you see a Mickey Mouse in the background just dancing, and you see like a McDonald's in the back, like ugh,
Hey, and then someone's in the corner doing drugs.
straight up. But yeah, the biggest point I want to mention about different countries. I'm mainly taking a jab at the American media because I don't know
Yeah.
what other countries' media says about the USA, but this is mainly about media over here in the USA. If you're listening to this and you reside in a different country outside the USA, we're about to give you some perspective in case you guys don't know. Um, is that take for example, I'm gonna use like Ukraine, Russia, and Israel again. So like uh, media over here loves to milk the war between Ukraine and Russia, and they always like to
Yeah.
show footage of like the devastation and like the violence and everything. Like I understand that that we need to be aware of the monstrosities being committed over in that area of Europe, but portraying like I'm trying to be as neutral as possible without like
Yeah.
offending or like pissing anyone off.
Yeah.
Um, because I've been to Russia, and right now I do believe Russia is doing pretty bad things. What they're doing, I believe, is wrong.
Yeah.
However, the American media is portraying them like as all like evil. And I do agree that like they're doing evil things, they're doing terrible things. But if you go to Russia yourself, like right now, America is very much cautioning US citizens, like they're advising against tourism to Russia. But from when I went there, the people there are nice. Like like when you hear people like if you ever been to Russia and you hear them talking Russian, they sound like they're pissed off at everything. Like the language just sounds angry. But really, like I had a translator with me when I was in Russia, and she was like, "Oh, it may sound angry to you guys, but we're just having normal conversation. That's just how Russians sound."
Yeah.
And
Hey,
there are many people over there that are actually genuine.
yeah.
And I could say the same about Ukraine. I've never been to Ukraine, but I could probably say the same as Ukraine. People like to portray Ukraine as this, but if you go there, it is most likely going to be different.
I think that's what really gets me about like different media. Like the games are fun to play and all that stuff, but like when you're dealing with other
You got to
countries,
know you got to know with like the countries represented in there. And there are sometimes in Call of Duty that there are fictional countries. I think Kazakhstan in Modern Warfare 1, in one of the Modern
which
Warfare
one?
games there was
Yeah.
in Modern Warfare there was in the campaign there was Kazakhstan that was fighting against Russia, and you're fighting with like a resistance in I think it's
Yeah.
called Urzikstan,
Yeah,
and
something like that.
like
Are you talking about the 2019 one or
it
the
was
original?
I think original maybe, but there was a Call of Duty game like fictional countries like they like to portray them one way, but they're different.
Yeah.
Um, and lastly, I also want to mention Israel one more time. Is that I don't know if they still do this. They probably do, but back when like Israel was getting quite nasty with the state of Palestine and just tensions in the Middle East towards Israel, and
Yeah.
people were portraying like Israel as a dangerous place to go. Like there was terrorism and violence with other countries everywhere in Israel. Like this was before I went to Israel. I was looking at the things that are saying, "Oh, it's a dangerous country. It's like it's not safe anywhere. It's like just don't go there. It's not a good place to go." And then I went there and I'm like, "Boy, were the media wrong."
Yeah.
like the tourists asked me, "What is something that you learned about in Israel? Like weren't learned about us in Israel?" And I told her that back in the USA, the news media love to portray Israel as a dangerous place to go to, and that there's
Yeah.
always war, or terrorism. But from my 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks in Israel, um, I never felt unsafe. Like
Yeah.
I actually think like from all the places I've been to, I've never felt so safe in a country than when I was in Israel.
Yeah. And that's how some other countries are like the media and everything will portray it as a really evil place, and then you go there and you feel safer than when you're at home, you know?
Yeah. Like when I first found out like I was gonna go to Israel with some friends and family, like I was kind of nervous because I immediately thought of the stuff that they said that it's dangerous, terrorism, wars, crime, everything. But like
Yeah.
I said, when I went there and experienced the culture and country of Israel, it just was so different. And I like to say this to everyone who's listening: if you're going out of country and you are going there and you're scared, it's it's not bad to have some sort of uh, be scared a bit because you're aware of certain events, but be aware of the fact that when you go to a new country, don't expect it to entirely be bad. Now we know that there are countries out there that are really bad, like just it sucks over there. But when we're talking about just typical tourism to
Yeah.
like Europe and like Caribbean and like maybe just like somewhere in the Mediterranean, Middle East area, some areas in Asia like South Korea, Japan, Australia, like it may sound bad over there, but don't let what people tell you from media dictate how you're going to experience a new country.
Hey, I feel like a lot of people's fear of going to somewhere like Australia is that they're gonna be attacked by like a giant bug.
I know. That's another thing. Like I've never been to Australia. Australia is a place that's on the bucket list. Like I have so many countries I want to
Yeah.
visit, and I'm pretty sure so many people out there who want to travel want to go to so many different countries. Australia being one of them. And I do say there is a part of a bit of fear in me that I'm going to encounter like a 15-foot length tarantula over there.
Yeah, and I don't even know if like certain bug sizes are normal, you know? I'm pretty
No,
sure
like
it's like kind of rare or just not as common as what people make it seem like.
hey, if you're from Australia and if you're listening to this, and you're from Australia, tell us what's the bug situation like down
Yeah, leave a comment.
there. Let us know. But yeah, like I said, don't don't let fear overcome your experience of a new country. I mean, I understand there are bad countries out there. Like there are terrible
Yeah,
places to visit. That's like, yeah, don't go to those bad places. But if you're looking at other countries that you are aware of like stuff that's going on over there, but you still want to go, continue doing your research, look at what other tourists have said. Um, Looking at some travel channels too. Like there's a lot of travel channels on YouTube here that tell you what it's like there. I did look at a video that's like 30 minutes long about basically these dudes spending like 2 weeks in Japan. And we all know that like Japan is next to North Korea and they're like crazy on their missiles. But from what the videos said and showed me was that Japan is really cool and that they had a great experience there and that you should really go. And this is still taking into account the fact that North Korea is testing missiles and like all this, like all the missile shenanigans, like all the missile shenanigans over in North Korea, like are crazy. But still, they go to Japan,
yeah,
which is right next to, it, and they still think it's a great time.
yeah, and I think that that's where a lot of people mess up, like their whole thought process is that they'll they will want to go to a country right next to a country that they really don't want to be around, you know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's what holds a lot of people back from going to certain places.
I would agree if that like I would agree that that's the biggest reason as to why people refuse to travel because of other countries close by that are just insane.
Yeah,
I would understand that. Like I said, I had the same thought process. It's like I was kind of hesitant. I was like, I don't know if I want to go to Israel because like
yeah,
there's like because like like when we were over there, Israel was currently at war with Lebanon, which is their northern country neighbor. Like they were at war, and we were driving in this area that had landmines and stuff, and that was like close to their and everything. But I was like,
eh,
that just knowing that Israel was at war with Lebanon while I was there, it I just didn't focus on that.
yeah. Hey, tell him the story about that one guy.
I'll probably save that for another episode
All right,
because we're starting to approach the hour 10-minute count.
it does not feel like we've been talking for that long.
You know, it's hey, those of you who listen to podcasts or are involved in a podcast, note this: if you ever want to do one, just get someone, press record. It will go by quick.
Oh yeah, it's it's
Yeah,
honestly
Cody, there
better
is
than
so
making fun
much.
of them.
There are so many things I could talk about when it comes to traveling to other places. I mean, if you want, we can do a part two to culture shock.
We could at some point. Yeah,
Hey guys, let us know in the comments below if you want us to go into a part two for traveling outside the USA and experiencing different cultures. We can talk about other places. Like I can go in more depth of going to Russia, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and like even talk about France and Spain. I didn't even I didn't even get to France and Spain, and there's so much to talk about with France and Spain. Like so much stuff to talk about. So yeah, let us know if you want a part two to this travel episode. Leave a like if you want it to. Also, yeah, that's
Yeah. All right. So I think that's about where we should end for today.
I think that's a good
So
spot to end.
yeah, so if you like this podcast and want to support us more, subscribe to The Trench and turn on the post notifications. And comment down below, what topics do you think we should talk about next?
Yeah, let us know. We definitely enjoy talking about random stuff. We can also get into some all the other random funny conversations. So we want to get involved with you guys. So let us know in the comment section if there's a topic you want us to talk about in the future. All right,
So,
guys. I think we good.
yeah, all right. Peace.
Bye. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Abyss.